You ever notice how some nights are so quiet, you can practically hear the weight of your own regrets echoing off the walls? Yeah, well, that's exactly where my story begins, the kind of night when even the Marin County air felt heavier than usual, slick with rain, reeking of burnt rubber and gasoline, while red and blue lights painted everything in an ugly, shifting haze. I stood there on the edge of that ravine, my hands numb, Avery clutching my arm like she might float away if she let go. Down below, the blackened wreck of my wife's Porsche, her Christmas gift, no less, looked like some kind of twisted modern art. And you know what? Part of me wanted to scream, but another part, well, I'll be honest, it almost felt like relief. Like something final had snapped. The call came at 2:17 a.m., just when I convinced myself I might get some sleep at Avery's place. My marriage to Jean was already a slow-motion car crash, even before that night. We hadn't spoken face-to-face in days, just bitter texts shot across the mansion like missiles. She called me hollow. I called her cold. The arguments were always the same. Me hiding behind money, her accusing me of loving my bank account more than I loved her. So when the California Highway Patrol rang, telling me there'd been an accident on Panoramic Highway, my heart slammed against my ribs. It was her car, my name on the registration. And when we got there, when the firefighter shook his head and told me, single occupant, "I'm so sorry, Mr. Davis," I knew the show had to start. Avery, all perfect cheekbones and practiced concern, played the part of the supportive family friend. The detective on scene, Harding, was nobody's fool, stocky, tired eyes that missed nothing. The type who sees right through a cover story. He asked when I last saw Jean. I lied. I said that afternoon, voice cracking. But truth was, we'd been living separate lives, her in the East Wing, me wherever Avery was. Harding glanced at Avery, wrote something in his notebook. He said they'd found a purse with Jean's ID. For a second, I thought my heart might just give out. Back at the house, the silence was a living thing. Jean's scent, that ghost of lavender and citrus, clung to everything. Avery tried to play house, offered to make tea, talked about packing up Jean's things. I snapped at her, not ready for any of it. The guilt clung to me, thick and suffocating. I kept seeing Jean everywhere, laughing in old photos, tending her roses in the garden. Avery's comfort felt like sandpaper. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Even her touch felt wrong. We were both just orbiting each other, prisoners in a mansion full of ghosts. And then, in the middle of all that misery, I stumbled onto something I wasn't supposed to find, a little cedar box in Jean's closet, filled with baby booties and a leather-bound journal. Her handwriting, so careful, so precise, laid out a story I didn't even know was being written. She'd seen me with Avery. She'd known for months. Her journal wasn't just heartbreak, it was a map. She wrote about following the money, planning for the worst, wanting to protect our unborn child from the toxic mess I'd made. Avery started pushing to move in for real, wanted to make our relationship public, start fresh in the same house where Jean's ghost was still very much alive. I lost it. Told her this was Jean's house, not hers. She shot back, wounded but sharp, making it clear that she knew where all the bodies were buried. My secrets, my lies. Suddenly the power had shifted. Avery wasn't the victim anymore. We were both just two desperate people, circling each other, waiting for the next blow to land. And then, a week after the crash, Harding called. They needed me at the coroner's office. Some discrepancies with the identification. My blood ran cold. Turns out, the woman in the car wasn't Jean. The DNA didn't match. And the kicker? The body wasn't even pregnant. She died of a heart attack before the crash. In that sterile, fluorescent-lit room, my world tilted sideways. Jean wasn't dead. She was missing. And suddenly, all eyes were on me. The news exploded. Tech CEO's wife missing. Mystery body in burned Porsche. Paparazzi everywhere. Board meetings turned into interrogations. Every little crack in my carefully curated life was suddenly on display. Avery panicked, suggested we control the narrative, go public, plead for Jean's safe return. I just laughed, bitter, exhausted. Our secrets were closing in from every angle. I hired Marcus Thorne, a PI with a face like a dropped anvil and zero patience for my self-pity. He told me flat out, "Your wife outplayed you." This wasn't a breakdown. It was a breakout. I went back to Jean's journal, Forced myself to read every line. She tracked my affair, detailed my laziness, planned her escape. She liquidated assets, researched countries. With no extradition treaties, staged her own death. The woman I thought was fragile was a damn genius. And I had never seen it. Marcus kept digging. Turns out, Avery wasn't just waiting for me to move on. She'd hired a guy, Leo Gallo, to scare Jean on the highway the night of the crash. Paid him off, made calls. Only Jean beat her to the punch. The car went up in flames before Leo ever got close. Suddenly, I realized I'd never been the master of anything. I was just a pawn in a chess game between two women who wanted freedom in their own way. I confronted Avery in public, gave her every chance to deny it, but she just crumbled, admitted she wanted Jean out of the way, not dead, just gone. I felt sick. Turned everything over to Detective Harding. Avery's arrest was a circus. For a moment, the media even painted me as a victim. Didn't feel like one. I was just empty. I spiraled, drank too much, stopped going to work, let my whole life grind to a halt. It was Marcus who dragged me back. Told me I could either drown or own up. For once, I did the right thing. I called a press conference, confessed my part in the mess. I wasn't looking for sympathy. I was just tired of hiding. Sold everything. Set up a trust for Jean and our unborn child. Not to win her back, just to give them what they deserved. Months passed. Marcus found Jean in Lisbon. She'd had a daughter. I wrote her a letter, said I didn't want to intrude, just to help. Waited 2 days. Finally, she agreed to meet in a park. I saw my daughter, Hope, for the first and probably last time. No anger from Jean, just resolve. I apologized. Handed her the trust papers. There was no forgiveness. Just acceptance. She left with our daughter, disappearing into the city. I stayed behind, finally at peace with the fact that I'd lost the only thing that ever really mattered. 6 months later, Jean stands on her balcony, laughing as Hope toddles toward her. Free and unburdened. I work with underprivileged kids in San Francisco, life quieter, smaller. Every month, Jean sends a single photo, Hope smiling at some new adventure. That's what I get now. Not a second chance at love, but a second chance at decency. So tell me, what would you have done? Can you really blame Jean for burning it all down? Was Avery a monster, or just another casualty? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's hear what you think about justice, love, and the messes we make when we refuse to see the truth. You know, I always thought closure would feel like some grand finale, like the end of a movie where everyone claps and the credits roll, but let me tell you, real life doesn't hand out those neat little bows. After Jean walked away with Hope that day in Lisbon, I stayed on that park bench for what felt like hours, just listening to the city go about its life. Kids laughing, a street musician somewhere playing an old song I half remembered from my childhood. The scent of jasmine and exhaust swirling together in the air. I should have felt relief, I guess, or at least some sense of accomplishment for finally doing the right thing, but mostly I felt small, like I'd finally stepped out from behind all my bravado and was seeing myself the way Jean probably always had. A man who'd run from every hard truth until the world forced him to stop and look. I came back to San Francisco, and let me tell you, nothing about that mansion felt like home anymore. Every step echoed with memories. Jean humming in the kitchen, the slap of Hope's little feet I'd only ever imagined. Avery's perfume still lingering like a bad decision you can't quite forget. The tabloids lost interest, eventually, moving on to some newer scandal, and for the first time in years, nobody cared where Joel Davis was. And honestly, that anonymity felt like grace. I sold the house, gave away most of what I owned, and kept only what I could carry in a couple of battered suitcases. Funny how you can measure a life's worth by what fits in the trunk of a cab. For a while, I crashed at a cheap motel on the edge of the city, the kind of place that doesn't ask questions, and spent my days walking, just walking, trying to put miles between myself and the man I'd been. It was Marcus Thorne who finally tracked me down, found me sitting in a diner at 2 in the morning, stirring cold coffee, staring at nothing. He slid into the booth across from me, that look on his face that said he was about to give me hell, and he did. Told me to get up, to stop hiding, to use whatever was left of my life for something better than self-pity and regret. He put me in touch with a friend running a nonprofit for kids, underprivileged teens, most of them one bad break. away from the kind of mistakes that ruin lives before they even start. I started volunteering, first just to fill the hours, then because I realized these kids didn't care about my scandals, my money, or the headlines. They just wanted someone to listen, someone who'd show up and not bail when things got hard. I taught math, helped with college applications, drove the van to basketball, games on weekends. Slowly, piece by piece, I started to remember what it felt like to matter in a way that had nothing to do with money or power. Every so often, I get one of those emails from Jean. No words, just a photo of Hope, grinning with cake on her face, or chasing pigeons in a square, her eyes shining with the kind of light I'd never managed to hold on to. It hurt, sure, but in a strange way, it healed me too. I stopped wondering what might have been if I'd made better choices, and started focusing on what little good I could do now, right here, for the people in front of me. The mansion, the boardrooms, the magazine covers, they all faded into background noise. One day, out of the blue, Marcus called again, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "You did good, Joel. She's safe. She's happy. Let it be enough." And maybe for the first time, it was. I realized that redemption isn't some mountain you climb once and stand on top of forever. It's a choice you make every single day, in the small, quiet moments when nobody's watching. Sometimes I walk along the waterfront at sunset, watching the fog roll in, and I think about Jean and Hope. Half a world away, building a life that has nothing to do with me. And you know what? That's okay. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone you love is to let them go, to stop chasing ghosts, and start living in the world as it is, not as you wish it could be. If you're lucky, maybe you get a chance to leave something better behind, a trust fund, a letter, a hard-earned lesson for someone who needs it more than you ever did. So that's it. That's the rest of my story. No big reunion, no Hollywood ending, just a man learning, finally, how to live with himself. And if you're still listening, maybe ask yourself, what would you do if your second chance wasn't about getting everything back, but about giving everything away? What's the real price of peace? Drop your thoughts below. I'll be here, reading every single one, grateful for the company.